मैटरनिटी हॉस्पिटल में लाइट बेसिक नीड है हमारी फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी ये होती है कि हमारी ज़्यादातर ओपीडी मॉर्निंग में कवर हो सके, क्योंकि इवनिंग में लाइट नहीं होती हमारे
पास। मुंग पर टेंट के दन लैट्रिन निश्ता करना था शपे मुंग चिता चा गेड़ा खराब है चीज़ जनाना खास कर अगोला डर तकलीफ भी चगाजी पकंदा क्यों और जी गिलास पर माते देशी
हमें पता चला था कि लाइट ना होने की वजह से आपकी ज़िंदगी के दरमियान में बड़ी परेशानी थी।
आइडिया होगा कि आपको इस टाइम दिन के टाइम में
यहाँ पे दिन के टाइम पे बिजी काफ़ी आपको प्रॉब्लम्स हैं।
दागे तकलीफ थे उस दा मशीन कोमा बस देला नासिम शो शुक्र दे स्टासो दे बिजली मुंगला दोमरा शुक्रिया जरूरा उड़ान बिजली नवा कार्बन की दे वाजिब माता गिरा।
हम बड़े ममनून हैं कि पेप्सी ने अपनी जिम्मेदारी को महसूस करते हुए उन्होंने हमें इसमें अपनी बोतलें दी और हमने उसके साथ मिलकर एक लाइट बनाई। सूरज की रोशनी से चार्ज होगी, इसके ऊपर आपको किसी किस्म का पावर शॉर्टेज का प्रॉब्लम नहीं आएगा। आपके पास अली रहमान साहब यहाँ पर लाइट लगाएंगे, आपके अंधेरों को यहाँ पर हमेशा के लिए ख़त्म कर देंगे। हम आप लोगों की जितनी भी सारी जगह हैं, हम इस जगह के ऊपर लाइट्स लगाएंगे। हमें आपके ताउन की ज़रूरत है
कि मुंग ज़रूरत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत तो पूर लगे दूर पारा।
जैसे ही शाम आएगी ये सारी की सारी लाइट्स ऑटोमेटिक ऑन होंगी।
रोशनी के आ जाने से हमारे कैंप के बच्चे जो हैं अब पहले से ज़्यादा महफूज हैं, बच्चे पढ़ सकते हैं। ये रोशनी ना सिर्फ कैंप में आई है बल्कि बच्चों के चेहरों में भी नज़र आती है।
Never before has there been more refugees in the world than there is today. I think more than 60 million are homeless or are forced to go out of their houses, their homes. But more than that, is in my country, there's what is called the climate refugees. And my background really is how do you deal with a country on the number one risk in the number of deaths. We had in 2013 more than 14 million houses destroyed within a 24-hour period with 350 kilometer per hour winds. It's like strapping yourself onto the nose of an airplane on takeoff. And so basically what was needed was a way to reconstruct very quickly the schools. Schools for me were very important as a gathering for the children. It helped to be able to put play, to be able to get back into the normalcy of life. And so we would prepare for these disasters by growing large fields of bamboo plantations. That way we wouldn't have to ship cement, steel, and glass over long distances. We're an archipelago of 7,100 islands. So every time a disaster would strike, we would get the bamboos and rebuild them because they were readily available on the island. One of the things we would see a lot is how do you rebuild these classrooms is really the absence of material. And one of the things that we would get are tons and tons of plastic bottles. It made absolute sense to people, instead of refining the water there, to ship with every bag of cans a plastic bottle. And so we would get these mounds and mounds of plastic bottles behind. To these we would gather and then we would fill them up with river mud. When they dried, we would mix chicken feathers in the little cement that we had. And this would be injected with sausage making machines to be able to build this kind of schools. So we would get enough trash to be able to fill in muds and build the bricks, but we would also have this plastic or glass bottles. Actually, we never figured it out, but there were enough how do you call it, gin bottles to light up the whole front. We never knew how we would not get bricks, but we would get gin bottles. We actually explained to them that we also accept not empty bottles, but full bottles. But it seems to be quite scarce, so we never got our gin. This would enable us to build stronger schools than cement, steel, and glass, because it was just so thick and heavy that in the next typhoon, the kids could run here in case of safety. But one thing I would never get is light. We would build all of these schools out of bamboo, bricks, sand. My specialty is really in alternative architecture. But we would never get an electrical company to actually say, look, we will donate to you light. Everything was a monopoly in the developing world. And so what we would do is we work basically with the same thing and put up between the mud bricks, we would put actually a bottle filled with water. This is working with a collaboration with Alfredo Moser. But really, with a simple bottle of water, light would bounce through it, and in even a small hole, which would not allow heat to be able to come in, enough to heat the home. This would give adequate light for kitchen, for, how do you call it, for space. It's just, sorry, I was just thinking about food. I couldn't get it up, but I have to tell you the truth. So we actually, because most of the ground would be polluted after the storm, and of course people would throw their manure. They call it flying toilets. They put it in a plastic bag and throw it out their window. So we could never get food out there. So we started using this as a way to grow food inside the house. And so this would allow people to bring the sunlight in. It's like a greenhouse. But afterwards, we got lots of letters from around the world from marijuana producers and saying, look, they used to catch us because our electricity rates would go above, normal. And so the police would come in and figure out that we were growing marijuana. But thanks to Litre of Light, but we are a force of good. But really, Litre of Light is talking about, how do you create the largest and most quick to create the solar lighting NGO in the world. It turns out that if you give solar lights, they are a recipe for disaster. You bring in thousands of solar lights to give to the community. Not only is it inefficient, 80% of all United Nations fund is spent on logistics. So you get it in somewhere. By the time you ship it all the way, you've spent 80% of every dollar, every pound just to get it there. So the thing there was saying, why not use the brilliance of the people, the genius of the poor? Solar, it's too complicated. It turns out that microsolar is done by hand in China. You put together the solar cells. So we created groups of people, like everybody could be a solar engineer. And so we would use copper strips, dip them, put a little bit of pentel pen, and then dip it in ferric acid or scratch it. Just use 4 parts. But we would be able to update the daylight, which brought light during the day. And then we're one of the largest users of e-cigarette batteries. So they hate us because we buy all these e-cigarette batteries. And then we have solar cells, and this will allow it to use at night. People think it's for reading, but all people need is to be not be able to step over people at night. In emergencies, we can create production lines of hundreds, if not thousands of people, volunteers, which we train during the year. Students, accountants, anybody that wants to learn to be a solar engineer, because when the disaster strikes, we will call them and say, look, we need you, we need everyone, not to just put in cans and pieces of rice. We don't need consumption. We need people that can give this kind of emergency lighting system, because the first thing that happens is lots of children get burned by kerosene lamps. When the batteries run out, when the candles run out, they use this kerosene in their small tents. And these things turn around and burn people and burn their tents. So what we're trying to do in light festivals and solar festivals is actually understand the need to be able to use it not just for art, but for the fundamental part that there is light poverty. 1.4 billion people don't have light. But what we do is we invite people to build these solar lights, small solar circuits, and we bring them all over the world. That way, even children realize that there's such a thing as energy poverty. Kids just go through the room and just go, and they think that lights are just, even in the developed and the developing world. But actually, there's such a thing called scarcity. That means if you use a lot of light in the city, that they have rotational brownouts in the developing world to keep the city lit. And so what we're trying to say is there must be a way to join the city and all its lighting and all its events and its entertainment, but also have something where there's an activist, where you're not just talking about awareness and saying, out there's something. No, get the kids to actually build that light. And so we use children in schools to build lights for soccer events. The children must know that they have power. This thing about going and watching films and saying, you're the future of the world, you're the future of light. And then after saying, okay, 1 hour of talking is gone, okay, bye-bye, everyone, see you next year, you're the change of the world. It's not working. You actually need them to build the solar lights. You actually need them to know. So we take those and we tag them and we teach their kids, like, this is where your light went. And this is how we feel that the next generation is going to go. So we get schools in one part of the world linked with schools on another part of the world where they put up the street lights. And so they see their circuits built in England, in Italy, in Europe, in America, but they know they're part of the change in light. So it's sort of a Lumiere for the developing country. We built street lights, we built Christmas lights. So it sort of bring the lights from the city into and we use the young people. So this is Ghana. I just came in to prove the point that you could light up the world, because there are LEDs in the developing world, there are batteries, there's everything for solar except knowledge. Everybody wants to patent, everybody wants to hold the technology and just sell it. And when it breaks after 2 years, to sell again, very consumerist. And our point was, what if you just teach them how to do it? The purest form of charity is to make yourself obsolete. And so, can villages in Ghana go to the city and buy the parts and light up their village? The point is yes. We just, as I said, we've gone to 15 countries around the world and repeated the same thing. This is Bangladesh. We light up whole islands. Give us, what about the youth? What about the local villagers? The point is the power of really solar, the power of light is to give it to the villagers. And this has been grossly neglected. Everybody talks about how large organizations for light is the solutions for large problems in light. And I tell you differently. You're talking about, a dot on the white paper, because the funds that you can do with your organization and your funds and your 3 months that you're there during the disaster while the TV is there and then when you leave, it's really minimal. The UN once said, we, as the United Nations, build a camp. The refugees build a city. And this inspired me for light. It's the same thing. If you come there and give light, you are the camp. But if you teach people how to be able to, build their own lights and fix it and find local parts, then you've built a way to light up the city. And so that's my talk. Thank you.